I will end with this. I just want to clarify, because a lot of times what we've known at least what I've known in my Christian past, my Christian life, is when we talk about translation, we're talking in context to translators. But I love the fact that really for you, bro, you've got the translator part of it. You've been plugging away. Really, that was the first few years, and really in the recent, it's been the linguist side, right? It's come into play. And there's actually some significant resources on the linguist side that's come to light to actually add to the translation process.
Totally.
So you have these two, and they're very valid. They're both are very valid. And so just to kind of clarify to those listening that we're trying to bring those two worlds together, and that's kind of what this whole discussion has been about, to let people know, because a lot of times we just hear translator. We're trying to actually bring the linguistic side, which is what brings the up and brings the, like, you want them to get the point.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And just, I mean, that's the way knowledge and understanding is. I mean, you grow, it develops, and people get clear insights. And on 5 or 6 different levels the last 20 years, there have been some big shifts happening, whether the nature of the verb. I mean, a lot of people may not fill in the pew, but there are some big debates happening right now in certain language circles, whatever, that they're really pressing hard. What does the Greek verb do? What's its core essence versus what's its function contextually? It's called verbal aspect, right? There's a big debate happening there. And if you translate according to the function of a verb in a certain context, again, what's the function? If you have a Swiss Army knife, right? Yeah. And it can be a toothpick, and it can be a knife, the scissors, and it can be the scissors. The question is, when do you use the scissors? When is it functioning as a knife, and when do you use the toothpick?
That's good,
right? And verbs are the same way because of what they. And so the question is, what information do they encode, and what jobs can they do with that encoded information? Depending on the context, right?
Yeah.
So that's another example.
That's good.
Of where there's a big discussion happening there. Then you're talking about the discourse level, where how do you follow the flow of thought in an argument, in a narrative genre, or all these different things. Yeah. And so the last thing that we need to do is again, like I am so thankful. I'm so thankful for the translations we have. I mean, you read whether it's the NLT or even Young's Literal. Young's Literal is even more literal than the NASB, right? But there's some times where you just want to know, like, okay, what's happening there from, like, he's trying to really capture some of the structure there in English. But it's a great example of what English would look like at its most literal. What Greek and English clothes would look like at its best, right? Yeah. And so, but it still has value. It still has some value,
And I think that, we want to say that.
What I don't want to happen is this: I don't want to come away saying, "Oh, finally the translation." That's
the translation.
No. I hate that. And I don't want to overstate. A lot of times translations may overstate. Like, we've got this translation and it's the clearest, this and that. And actually, it's like, well, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. But
I love your example of the peanuts, like in the nuts, or the nut inside the shell. That's what it is. And you're trying to get as much of the peanut out of the shell. Like, sometimes the peanut gets stuck in there. You're just trying to get as much out that you can out of the Greek into the English.
And what I really think that most people that translate the Bible are probably trying to get the nut out, right?
Yeah, totally.
But sometimes, like, I've got blenders are a lot better than they were 30 years ago, right? Cars. Yeah. You've got gas mileage can go a lot farther now, and so when you get the nutcracker, the Lord's breathing on different people in different parts of the body. They're getting insight. The discussion's happening, and the nutcracker gets better. Yep. Then you're like, wait a minute, like, Stephen Levinson, man, he's got a good nutcracker. Yeah. Steve Runge out of Logos. I mean, that guy, these guys have put a lot of time and energy to take the world of the linguist, which is it's just like any other field of specialty where, you got doctors, very technical language, and unless they start bringing, tell me in layman's terms. Oh, it means that you're probably going to throw up for 2 days. Oh, right. Okay. That's what
That's what that means. Right. Instead of this long word.
Right. Well, these guys have labored for years trying to bring the stuff down to where, it may not be necessarily you can go to McDonald's and eat a Happy Meal and understand it, but it's more accessible, right? Sure. For some little dude like myself. So that's all that to say, like, I don't want if anybody happens to see this, the last thing I want is for any kind of exaltation or any kind of elitism, or any kind of, if there's anything, we need to be thankful. We need to always compare translations. But my heart in it is to say, okay, if we've got this nutcracker that's been given to us by the Lord over the years, I mean, even the Bible software, you can find out what an adverb does in different contexts. You can find out more about that in 5 minutes than would have taken you months in the past. And I think it's just the Lord's mercy, the urgency of the hour we're in, things like that.
It's good.
And so it's just a weak attempt to try to present the scriptures.
Yeah.
And I've got my goals in it. I've got my goals in it, and I define the success of it by, does it meet those goals?
Yeah.
And if somebody else has a different set of goals in their translation, then you define success by that, right?
Sure.
And so I'm asking the Lord, based on the things you put on my heart with it, may it be pleasing in your sight, right?
Sure.
And so that's my heart in it. And so that's why it's taken me so long to do it, is because I'm trying to write out translator's notes so people can be let into the room a little bit.
Yep.
Now, they won't be able to understand all of them, but a lot of them they can, right? And translators related to whether it's the discourse level or whether it's why I would choose, even linking something to the Old Testament, right? There's a lot of ideas where it's clearly that this has roots in the Old Testament, right? But it might not necessarily come out that way. And so one of my goals in the translation is for people to see something
and to connect it to the
and
Old.
it's like, it triggers the Old Testament file folder that they have in their mind on that particular topic.
It's good. It's really
and so
good.
it's like, because that's what language does. You speak a word, and it's supposed to open up a file, but if the file's not there, or if you don't know that that's the key to the file, then it might not open up, right?
Sure.
And so basically the hope is with the translator's notes that there's transparency there, that I present the reasons why.
Yep.
Because I made some, I realized that in the midst of this process, you've got different perspectives, right? And so all you can do is try to be faithful to the Lord with a clean conscience, present the case as best as you can see it.
Sure.
Let people in on it, and then they can make their own choice. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I want it to be transparent in that.
I think it's great.
But I know that I have been, like, as I've been diving in, like, it has hit me hard. And just even where, just one more example, Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, where he says, when you're fasting, right, don't be like the hypocrites, because they they disfigure their faces, they dirty up their faces,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And to show people that they're fasting. And then he gets to that point where he says, but you, when you fast, wash your face, right? Wash your face. There, the emphasis is on wash. And so he's saying, but you wash your face. And he's emphasizing there that the action that he wants from you. In English, we don't have good ways of emphasizing verbs.
Got it.
Other languages you can emphasize verbs,
Sure.
But in English, our main way of emphasizing verbs is through italics.
Yeah.
Because we would do it in speech, we put emphasis on it, but
Sure.
but in
written text, it's hard.
it's got so there, that would be an example. Or you could do it through a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What are you to do? Wash your face. You could do a rhetorical question.
Got it.
So things like that. So anyway, I'm going on a lot, but the point
That's
is
great.
that, like, this is so pray for us. It's just we're just little men trying to be faithful with the gospel, just like so many of our brothers and sisters that have produced other translations, and obviously I feel the need for it based on the goals that God's put on our hearts with DTN. I feel like there is a need for a translation according to those goals and concerns.
It's good.
But I don't take that as a reason for just going on diatribes all the time. That's not to say that there are not problems at certain times, but you got to make a case for why that you see a problem and why you think this actually might remedy it.
That's good.
So anyway,
Awesome, bro.
love you, brother.
Love
Bless
you
you guys.
Love you guys out there. All right.